manage, monitor, and alert on all these devices deployed, so a small IT team can take care of thousands of devices across the world. And then we're supported by all the major carrier networks in the United States, Canada, Europe, and many others around the world. And one of the things that differentiates Cradlepoint is we don't just have point solutions when it comes to LTE. A number of other routing network vendors will have the routing suite, and then they have a 4G product that they've added in. We have products in all of the different market areas with 4G, including fixed networks for micro and branch offices, store within a store, pop-up networks, those fixed networks that can be a router that runs the entire primary network of what our application is running. We also have failover networks, primarily our CDA 850. That's a 4G to Ethernet bridge. And so you can add 4G to an existing router infrastructure by adding a CDA 850 that converts 4G and makes it look like another wired internet connection with the reliability of wired over wireless. And it also has out-of-band management, where you can manage and monitor devices behind the Cradlepoint device, even if there's something wrong with it through the console port. Then we also have our mobile network solutions for police, fire, ambulance, bus, fleet vehicles, and then we have our MDM and IoT networking devices. These for kiosks, digital signage, ATMs, and the like. Today, we're talking about enhancements across three of those spaces, primarily across the product line. We're talking about we're launching LTE Advanced, first in the world with an LTE Advanced modem launched in a routing platform, and we have them across our product line. We'll also be talking about faster data offload on the IBR 1100, and then across the product line as well, we're going to be talking about SIM tracking and inventory management enhancements we've made within ECM. On the CDA 850, we've also added inline failover, and then also across the product line, we've added a modem standby mode, where we can make a modem with instant failover. So let's start with LTE Advanced. On April 19th, Cradlepoint became the first company in the world to launch an LTE Advanced routing platform, and we have a full suite of it. And this isn't a new concept for Cradlepoint, because we were the first in the world to support LTE with a USB modem, first in the world to support LTE and an embedded router, and then we've continued to maintain our LTE leadership position. So you should look to Cradlepoint to be the first with LTE routing solutions. When LTE first launched, and I'll talk about the history of LTE and where it's going right now, it was all about speed. It was all about LTE is faster. Right now, LTE is bifurcating into two different directions. When LTE launched, everything was Category 3 LTE. That meant it had a theoretical maximum of 100 megabits per second down, 50 megabits per second up, and everything was Category 3 LTE. Now LTE is moving in higher performance, higher cost, Category 4 and Category 6 LTE. Category 6 LTE is LTE Advanced. And then lower speed, lower cost LTE is Category 1 LTE, Category M LTE. And you're like, wait, LTE lower speed? Yes. Category 1, think of it as a 3G replacement, and Category M is a 2G replacement. It all uses the more efficient LTE standard, but it's slower speeds. Cradlepoint's initially focusing on these faster speeds, higher performance, because our customers care about speed, reliability, and performance, which is what Category 6 LTE is all about. So what is LTE Advanced? It is the next major evolution in long-term evolution networks, and it is about speed, coverage, and reliability. And I'll talk about how we get those with LTE Advanced. And it's up to 3 times faster than the current generation of Category 3 LTE, with LTE Advanced having a maximum theoretical throughput of 300 megabits per second down. And then, of course, we'll be wondering, wait, it sounds really cool, when can I have it? And the answer is now. And I'll talk specifically about where the different carriers have it rolled out, and coverage, and their plans for the future. And I'll come back to that in just a moment, but one of the major features that LTE Advanced includes is called carrier aggregation. And this is how we get those faster speeds and better reliability. On a conventional LTE network shown here at the top, the carriers are broadcasting multiple frequency bands. So for Verizon, they broadcast on band 4, and 13. They're adding band 2 now and 5 later. And so they'll be broadcasting 4 different LTE bands. On a conventional Cat3 modem, it selects one of those bands to connect to and you're connected. With LTE Advanced, it can now select 2 different bands to connect to at once and aggregate them together at the tower level to bond those channels together to create one bigger pipe. This means that you get faster speeds in the download. What it also means, if the secondary band drops, you're still connected, which is where you get better reliability. I talked about how Verizon currently has those 2 bands rolled out across the country, 4 and 13. They're currently rolling out bands 2 right now and band 5 in the future. This new LTE Advanced modem we're launching, it's got LP6, or the designation at the end of our product, so it AIR 1600 LP6, CBA 850 LP6. It stands for LTE HSPA Plus, and it's the 6th LTE HSPA Plus modem Cradlepoint has had. It also means it's Cat 6 modem. So you've got all these frequency bands. This new modem adds new frequency bands for every single carrier in the United States. Many of you may remember when Verizon had just band 13 on their network, and then they launched band 4. And they made an entire marketing campaign around this band 4. They called it XLTE. Well, with this new LTE Advanced modem for Verizon, it adds band 2, which they have rolled out across 10 to 20% of their network now, and they're aggressively rolling that out. And then next year, they're going to start rolling out band 5. This modem is also has band 5 and is certified for band 5 use on Verizon. So when they make those changes, either now on band 2 or next year on band 5, the experience is only going to continue to get better with this modem. For AT&T, we're adding bands 29 and 30. For Sprint, we're adding bands 26 and 41 to the current 25. This means you now get Sprint LTE Plus support. Last November, they end-of-life the name of Sprint Spark, and now they're calling it LTE Plus. And I'll come back here in terms of it's now available in major U.S. cities. And what this means is for Verizon, they started with the NFL cities, and they rolled it out across all the NFL cities, and they've been rapidly expanding support from there. And they're quote, rolling it out across the network. They don't have a map published yet, but the coverage is pretty good in major U.S. cities, and it will continue to get better. For AT&T, they're live in many metro areas with ongoing deployments, and they started with a couple of the frequency bands they already have now, and they'll be adding 29 and 30 across more major metropolitan areas. So even where they have LTE Advanced now, it's going to get better, and where they don't have it yet, it's very soon going to get better. T-Mobile actually probably has the lead in terms of rolling out LTE Advanced across their network. And they're actually branding this. Where they have carrier aggregation, they're calling it wideband LTE, so wideband. So if you see that anywhere, it means it's LTE Advanced, which means Cradlepoint is the only router that can take advantage of that. It's the fastest LTE where they have LTE available. For T-Mobile, we also added band 12 support, and they branded this as well. You may have seen their advertisements for extended range LTE. They're saying it travels up to twice as far and penetrates 4 times better into buildings. That means it's got band 12 in it. And this new LTE Advanced modem has band 12 in it. So we do support extended range LTE and wideband LTE for T-Mobile. And then Sprint has coverage in many markets as well. They're probably, in terms of percentage of their network coverage, second only behind T-Mobile. And this is why I don't think Verizon and AT&T are talking about a whole lot. They have got great LTE networks across the country, but in terms of percentage of the network covered, T-Mobile and Sprint have a slight leadership position there. Sprint is calling their LTE Advanced LTE Plus, and they're the only ones that actually publish a coverage map on their website calling out the different types of LTE. So you can log in to the coverage map on the Sprint website and look at it where do you have LTE coverage versus LTE Plus coverage. We also have another really awesome feature that's coming with this new LTE Advanced modem, and it's called SIM-based automatic carrier selection. And what this means is that we're going to sell one SKU for all of North America. So when you buy a product, you're going to buy an LP6-NA for North America, which means you don't have to worry about figuring out if you want Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, or even a Canadian carrier before the time of deployment. At the time of deployment, you simply stick your SIM in. We will automatically detect the carrier for that SIM, load the appropriate modem profile, and connect. And this simplifies that configuration process, reduces setup time, reduces inventory, channel issues, because we have a single SKU for all the carriers. There's no internet access required to download these new firmware images to switch carriers, because it's all stored locally on the device. It's all stored locally on the device itself. So the modem profile images for Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, and the generic one that's used for T-Mobile and all the rest of the carriers are on our device. So it reduces that setup time. So here's how it works. You take your SIM in, you plug it in, it detects it, and connects. Almost all of our products, or all of our products that support this LP6 modem, have 2 SIM slots. What happens if you put 2 SIMs in? Well, it will detect a higher priority SIM and then connect. It'll load that appropriate modem profile, and when you do this, the first time it connects, if the SIM profile and if the modem profile does not match the SIM, it's going to take a couple minutes for it to load that appropriate modem profile in and connect. The next time it boots up with that same carrier SIM, it's going to boot up just as fast as normal. So that modem profile carrier switch takes about 2 minutes. But you'll note, I just said you could put 2 SIMs in a single modem now, which means we can also do failover and failback on a single modem with some limitations. And here's what they are. When you failover, because it takes a couple of minutes to switch that modem profile, failover is a couple-minute process. And then, when do you fail back? One modem only has one radio, and when you're connected to, you say you have an AT&T and Verizon SIM in there, you're connected to Verizon, when did the AT&T network come back up, or when do you drive back into a coverage area if you're driving around? You have no way to tell. And so it's timer-based failback only. So it's a little bit slower failover, about 2 to 5 minutes to failover, and then failback is timer-based failback only, or think of it as a blind failback. So the user's going to have to set a timer, say, after every 10 minutes, check to see if the original carrier is back up and online. So if you want to use it for failover and failback with one modem, you've got to think, can the customer handle 2 to 5 minute downtime plus blind failback? If they want fast failover, you should still get 2 separate modems and put a SIM in each of those 2 modems. If you want load balancing, you also need 2 separate modems. So now I'm going to compare and contrast our current Category 3 LTE modems, and these are our LTE modems, with our next generation LTE Advanced modem, our LP6 modem. The first thing you want to note is we're actually launching them at the same price. So there's no price increase to move from the Category 3 LTE to Category 6 LTE Advanced, which should make it easier for you as customers to change over. We also support carrier aggregation on LP6. That means we can take those 2 channels and bond them together at the tower level, and this happens automatically when you buy one of our modems and put a SIM in. It happens automatically at the tower. We also have that SIM-based auto carrier selection, so one SKU for all North America, and it covers AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and then a generic image covers T-Mobile, the Canadian carriers, other regional carriers within the United States, as well as Europe. So this is the same modem we'll use in Europe. There are a few reasons you might consider buying the current Category 3 LTE modem. And the first and biggest is probably because it does not have 3G EVDO fallback for Sprint or Verizon. And this is basically a carrier requirement at this point. There are no module manufacturers that make modems that are building another LTE modem for Verizon that includes 3G fallback, because Verizon's saying we're not going to certify it. So any new modem coming out in the future pretty much does not have this EVDO fallback. If you still need it, if you're in rural Mississippi and got to have it, continue buying our current Category 3 products. And we plan to keep those active in our product line at the minimum before we say any end-of-life stuff until the end of 16. If they continue to sell well, we'll continue to extend that even further. But the first even communication we have to talk about the end of life process isn't going to be until at least the end of this year. So don't worry about EVDO support going away. Uh, and that effectively just means it's LTE only product for both Sprint and Verizon. It also has no 2G fallback on any carrier. It still does have the HSPA plus fallback for T-Mobile and AT&T Canada and international players. So it does have 3G fallback for on HSPA plus. And then Sprint support is also going to be followed here. It's going to be a month or two before we get Sprint support on this new modem. So if you need Sprint support today, you'll have to continue buying our current products. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Landon to talk about some cool new features that we launched just